Welcome to the channel, guys. It's Weedle, and today I'm going to go over the best tier 8 tanks in the tech tree. Now, I know tier 8 is mostly seen as, hey, that's the premium tier. Why would you play anything else? Well, you know, if you're going to use that logic, why would you play any other thing other than a premium? Just saying. Same thing. So, what tanks are best in the tech tree? Well, to start the list off, the legendary Tiger 2. I highly recommend this tank. Honestly, it's the whole reason that I got into World Tanks to begin with. Saw a Tiger 2, saw a mouse, saw a tiger. I'm like, yeah, I want to go up those. Funny story. And I'd like to know if y'all did this. First time I got to a tiger, I was like, it was my first tier 7. I was like, wow, I'm in a tiger. Nothing can pin me. And I drove forward and immediately got obliterated and realized, yeah, pretty much everything can. But that doesn't mean this is a bad tank. This is an excellent tank. I just finished 3 marking it, actually. And another reason to play a lot of these tier 8 tech tanks, super easy to mark compared to their counterparts. And for instance, this only takes about 2200 damage to 3 mark. And let me tell you, that's probably about the easiest 3 mark I have ever done. But let's compare it to the E75 TS right quick and see what we're working with. Okay, the E75 TS, considered a pretty good tier 8 premium, honestly. And if you look at Tiger 2's got more DPM, slightly less penetration, better gun handling as a whole, quite a bit better actually on the dispersion. Loses a little bit in mobility, but you know what? Slap a turbo on the Tiger 2 and you're good to go. I highly recommend giving this tank a try. Let me know how it works out for you. Next up on the list, we have the Type 57. And I know what you're saying. Thought the new Japanese heavy line was bad. The tier 10's bad, but I will tell you what. Every other tank going up that tree. The tier 5's good. Tier 6 is one of the best tier 6s in the game, in my opinion. The tier 7's playable. The tier 8 is honestly better than the premium tank, and we're going to compare that in just a moment. But also the tier 9, this tier is very good. 12 degrees gun depression, good penetration, good gun handling, reasonable mobility, and excellent armor for tier 8. Yeah, this thing is a blast to play and very difficult to deal with on the battlefield when it's in a strong position. So, I don't know about y'all, but I was excited when the Type 63 came into the game last Christmas just to get it and realize that it's kind of a stinker. But, how does it compare with the Type 57? Well, the Type 57's got more DPM, slightly less penetration, but it does have that 360 alpha versus that 320. So, yeah, not a bad trade-off. Equal dispersion at 0.27. A little bit less than the mobility, but workable. And for that, you get considerably better armor. I highly recommend giving this tank a try. Like I said, not much you can go wrong with. The tank kind of just plays itself. Good on every map. Gotta love it. Number 3 on the list that you should give a try is the tier 8 Polish tank, the Kolana, which I think I said that right, but if I didn't, correct me down below. Also, if you're enjoying any of my content, don't forget to follow. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps me reach more people, and hey, who knows? Maybe someday it'll be a Weedle commander. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. But how does this thing compare with the Grom, which just entered the game? Well, to be honest, you lose a little bit of alpha damage, but for the Kolana here, you actually have quite a bit more armor. So this is a lot more forgiving. You know, a little less on the mobility and the armor, but and the alpha, but you also don't lose the damage over time, over the distance as quickly as the Grom. So we'll compare it right quick, and but like I said, this thing very difficult for other tier 8s to deal with. Okay, so how do these two tanks compare? Well, kind of like I said before, you lose damage over distance about half of the amount that you do the Grom. So, you know, at 500 meters, you'd still have like 1400 DPM with the Kolana, where you only have 782 with the Grom. However, the Grom does have 100 more alpha when you're in that really close in range. So it's a give and take. Obviously a little bit worse on the most of the gun stats. Like I said, Kolana's got more armor, and when we look at the front, 200 versus 100, and let me tell you, that makes a huge difference. The Kolana is a far more forgiving tank than the Grom. Like I said, tomato. If you're a really good player, you make either one of them work. But for me, I like the Kolana. It's also, you don't have to pay money for it. Just pick it up right out of the tech tree. Next, we have an American, the T32 Heavy. Now, this is basically identical in most in retrospect to the 832 that's in the game, that little Terminator tank. So there's really no reason not to give this thing a shot. If you like the 832, you're going to like the T32. There's just a little bit of difference in them. We'll just go over that right quick, but this is a solid tier 8 heavy tank. So what do you get for the T32 versus the 832? Well, first thing to stand out is that the T32 has considerably better DPM than the 832. Pretty rare, honestly, when you're thinking about tech tanks better than their premium counterparts, but in many ways, I think the T32 is. You do trade off some of that DPM for better gun handling that the 832 has, but let's be honest. Are you seeing anything here that's going to really make a difference? Pretty much the same mobility, same armor right here, as you can see. I said you're basically playing something that's as strong for the premium counterpart, and it is much easier to mark the T32. So I just looked it up. The 832 to get the third mark is just over 3,000, while the T32 is just below 2,500. Let me tell you, it's much easier to do 2,500 damage in a T32 than it is 3,000 to 832. So if you're looking for a marking challenge, another reason to play the tier 8 tech tanks. Much easier, but if you're playing the best ones, they're just as good as their their premium counterparts. And T32, I think a lot of people sleep on it. Now, not all tanks that are good in the tech tree have premium counterparts. The 416 is one of them. This tank is actually quite nasty to try to fight against. Very good concealment ratings on it. It can almost act, it's a very good build-up if you're interested in playing like the K91. This plays very similar. You're looking at 2,500 damage per minute. That's really high for a tier 8 tech tank, or even a premium tank for that matter. This would put it near the top tier in DPM. 0.35 dispersion. You're probably thinking, well, that's not that great, but it also has 300 pin on its heat premium round. And let me tell you, 300 pin goes through a whole lot of things at tier 8. So yeah, give this tank a try. Let me know how it works out for you. But like I said, very similar playstyle to the K91. And for you K91 enjoyers, you're very much going to like the 416. Of course, another tank you have to throw on the list if you're talking about tier 8 tech tanks that are as good as their premium counterparts, the Chariot tier has to be mentioned. Not only is it a good tank, but it is also the Nomad that came in the game is an exact carbon copy of this tank. So you can basically enjoy the Nomad for 2.4 million credits. You got the same tank. But yeah, this thing gets slept on a lot. Very good tank. Used to see it in the queue a lot, but nowadays it seems to be mostly replaced by the Nomad. But you know what that means? Much easier to 3 mark. So give it a shot. Let me know if you like this thing. I don't think I've ever actually played it, but I do know it's pretty good. So that's good. I'll take people's word for it. Okay, so one for you arty enjoyers out there. The list really wouldn't be complete without mentioning FV207. This tank, honestly, most of your arty missions can be done with this tank, this artillery. So if you're trying to still get your Object 260 or grind out some of those harder arty missions for the 279E, definitely pick up this tank or artillery and rain that cancer down on people, and you know, do what I think a lot of arty players do: find that Unicum and just leave him stunned the whole time. He'll enjoy it, trust me. So another interesting tank that's made the list is the AMX AC48. Now, this is a tank that I need to buy back personally. It's a very good tank destroyer, especially with the 4-round autoloader. A lot of players actually underestimate how much damage this thing can put out. Very good gun. It's almost as good as the tier 9, you know, because the tier 9 has the same magazine potential as this tank, with a slight advantage in interclip reload. And let me tell you, that does not pay off like the tier 10 does with the 6-round autoloader. This thing can definitely tear up the tier 8 battlefield. Definitely should give this thing a shot. I wish they had a premium version of this tank. I think it would get played quite a bit. But this thing is actually quite enjoyable. Like I said, I plan to pick it up and finish 3 marking it at some point. But won't be in the next couple of weeks, but check out my stream and see if I have gotten around to it. And if I don't, remind me, because this thing was actually a lot of fun. Okay, so the Swedes make an appearance on the list. Now, the Udez 03 is a very interesting tank destroyer because it does have a premium tank counterpart, but the differences in them they're a little different. While the premium certainly has better armor, this tank has better mobility, better concealment, and better gun handling. So it's kind of a trade-off, but I very much enjoyed this tank back in the day. Obviously, I sold it, but I will get it back at some point, and like I said, finish marketing it, because this thing was actually pretty nasty. And if you're definitely a Swedish tank destroyer enjoyer, then you'll probably like this thing. Has all the advantages of the other Swedish tanks except for the armor, but very good gun at tier 8. And as you can see, even with its standard round, 288 millimeters of pin with 390 alpha. Yeah, this thing, quite a nasty little booger. So let me know if you've tried this out, but it is a very good tank destroyer. All right, next up, SMV CC67. If you're going up the Minotaur line, you've probably played this thing. It's kind of like a tomato. I'm going to compare it with the Vapira here in just a moment so you can kind of get a feel for what I mean. But this thing basically has better mobility, and I enjoy the gun on this one a lot more than I do the Vapira. I don't know if the dispersion is the same, but it certainly feels like this thing performs better. But yeah, this is actually a pretty good tank destroyer for tier 8. It does not play up tiers very well, and the whole TD line for the Italians kind of does that. Like, you'll see, like, the tier 7 really good against tier 7 tanks. The tier 8 really good against tier 8 tanks. The tier 9 is really good against those tier 9 tanks, but like that extra tier with the guns with the extra penetration just seems to kind of overmatch each one of them. And then get the Minotauro, and it's a very good tier 10 tank destroyer. So definitely pick up this thing. Let me know if you enjoyed it, but I actually had some pretty fond memories of it. It's probably another tank I should pick up and play again, especially since the crew changes and you can start out with a 100% crew. Yeah, this is kind of a no-brainer. So here's what I kind of said, like the little tomato thing on this thing. You do get slightly more DPM with the Vapira, but keep in mind the overall reload of the SMV is kind of a little bit shorter because the has 1 or 2 less rounds. I think it's got 1. I don't remember. It's either got 1 or 2 less rounds than the Vapira in the magazine. So you end up with a very short, long reload versus the Vapira kind of gets a longer one. Better standard penetration on the SMV. You know, like I said, there's like some give and take in here. Aim time's better. You know, like I said, in general, the gun handling is better with the tech tank than the premium tank. Also, it has better mobility. So, and as you can see, the armor, you know, better whole armor, slightly worse turret armor. Like I said, a lot of give and take here, but this is basically as good in most situations as the Vapira, and a very enjoyable tank. So definitely give it a shot if you're looking for a little something different. Okay, so do you like your Progetto? If yes, then you'll probably like this tank too. It's essentially a Progetto that is slightly nerfed in every single way. It is slightly, and I mean basically slightly worse gun dispersion, slightly less DPM, slightly less mobility, slightly less listen here. Basically, if you took a Progetto and you said, nerf stick, you're like 2% worse in every way, you get the Pantera. But you want to know something? The Progetto is a very, very good tier 8 premium tank. And if you nerfed it by 2%, it would still be a very, very good premium tank. So, yes, this thing is a pretty darn good tank. Give it a shot. Like I said, I think a lot of people kind of sleep on a lot of these tech tanks, but these are some of the best ones. And like I said, if you're looking to like get your first 2 mark, your first 3 mark, you know, tier 8 is actually, especially the tech tree tanks, is an excellent place to start looking to do that. I know a lot of people, they'll go, well, it's easier at tier 5. Well, there's a lot of people doing that. And there's a lot of tier 5 tanks that have absurd requirements, especially the good ones. But tier 8, heck, even the good tanks at tier 8 and the tech tree are still pretty easy. I think because a lot of people just fly through it, and once they've ground out the tank, they sell it and they never see it again. But especially with the crew updates where you have 100% crews on everything now, it's actually a viable option to go back and play these and keep them in your garage. So I'll be adding them back and marking them. I've already kind of started doing that. I went through that. I marked the Tiger 2. Very enjoyable. Did not take me that many battles to 3 mark the Tiger 2. Same thing with the Type 57. I just finished 3 marking it like 2 weeks ago. Actually, about a week ago. Took me less than 100 battles. Super easy. So, at least for me. But, you know, again, if you're looking to get your first mark, second mark, or third mark, give tier 8 a try. I think there's some very good tanks in the tree. They get overlooked a lot. But let me know if you like this. And like I said, I'm going to try to keep up some more stuff coming out. At least put out 2 videos a week if I can. Of course, I do work full-time. I know. Imagine that. YouTuber with a full-time job. But hey, here I am. It's trying to have a Weedle commander in the game. Try not to get ahead of myself. All right, guys. Enjoy. I will talk to y'all later. And hope to see you in some battles.